Hey guys, it's Liz from West Star Tarot. Welcome to my channel. So today I'm going to be talking about my February favorites and different decks and books and other things that I was up to in the month of February. And for most of my life, February has not been my favorite month. In fact, it might have been my most unfavorite month. I was always glad it only had 28 days. But for some reason this year, I've really been sinking into or surrendering to winter. And I've been really enjoying the peace and quiet and rest and retreat and, hermity aspect. I had, as I've mentioned multiple times, a rough year last year. And I also wasn't real happy with my tarot practice because I just had so much other stuff going on. And I was determined for 2023 to kind of, dive into my practice and even if other crises were happening, to pay attention to my tarot practice and my spiritual practices. So far that's been happening. In addition, we've had a somewhat mild winter, so we've had lots of days when it's been really pleasant to be out walking in the woods with my lovely Luna and my sister and a couple of my other friends who I walk with. So I've gotten in quite a few woodland walks, and it's been really pleasant. We have had a couple of snowy days, but hey, it's winter. Anyway, I mentioned in my January favorites video that I came up with a new way of working with my cards, and I started doing a 5-day spread, kind of a card a day, and I would just sort of spontaneously pick whatever deck felt like that was the deck I wanted to pull from that day, and I was mixing it up with Oracle and Tarot. And I used over 20 decks in January. And in February, I followed the same pathway. And I was just whatever deck floated my boat the morning or the day that I was working with that, card of the day. And I just used a variety of different decks, some overlaps with January. So as I mentioned last month, what I've been doing is I've been doing these 5-card spreads, a card a day, and kind of interpreting that card each day. And then at the end of the 5 days, I've been reading the cards together as a 5-card spread. And that's been really interesting. As I said, I started that in January and it continued into February. And so I just wanted to, I'm going to just read off really quickly the decks that I did use, 9 Tarot and 13 Oracle. So, Gaian Tarot, Tarot of the 4 Elements, Wee Moon Tarot, Shimmering Veil Tarot, Witch's Wisdom Tarot, Phyrexa Tarot, Wiser Rider Waite Smith Tarot, and Starseeker Tarot. Some of those I used in January and some I didn't. And then for the Oracle, I used the Between the Worlds Oracle, Compendium of Witches, the Moon Oracle, Avalonian Oracle, Earth Magic Oracle, Faceted Garden, Tulku Oracle, Wild and Sacred Feminine Oracle, Herbal Astro Oracle, Lantern Oracle, Cosmic Reading Cards, Wisdom of the Divine Feminine, and the Mother Mary deck. So those were the decks that I used. Some of them I used in my 5-card spread, and some of them I did, different spreads with, just with those decks. And it was really a wonderful, I really thoroughly enjoyed it. As March begins, I'm thinking I'm going to change directions a little bit. So I feel like I've had 2 months of breadth and width. And I think in March, I'm going to narrow my focus a little bit. At least that's how I feel now on March 3rd. I'm really just going to go with the flow and see where things lead me. But I will be traveling later in the month of March, so I will not have access to all of my decks. So that will be narrowing my focus anyway. So cards for the month of February. So my weaver was a wolf from the Bone Clan, an East Weaver, Udigan of the Berry Pouch. And she graced my altar for the month of February. What a presence. My animal card was Bear from the Animal Spirit Oracle by Kim Krantz. And I have not pulled from this, well, I pulled last month, but I had not pulled from this deck in ages and ages and ages and ages. And Spirit moved me, so I pulled. And I think Bear, there's just many ways to look at Bear, but because I pulled Bear in February, I'm looking at the aspect of Bear that speaks to hibernation and rest and retreat and renewal. So it was a reminder as Bear sat on my altar all month to remember to do the resting and the renewing and the hibernating. And then my flower or my plant is lavender restoration, which kind of goes along with all of the hibernation and resting and renewing. This is from the Plant Spirit Oracle, Soul Flower Oracle by Lisa Estabrook. So lavender. Lavender's restorative and purifying energy and aroma calms and uplifts your mind and body, easing feelings of stress and agitation from your earthly distractions and rejuvenating your soul so that you can truly feel and radiate inner peace and harmony. So I feel like there's sort of a theme going on. And then on the full moon, I pulled from the Moon Oracle, and this is the Gratitude card. And I mentioned last month that I have been using my Wee Moon journal as a kind of a gratitude practice. So every day I write down something that I am, if I can get to the page, something that I am grateful for, something that brought me joy. And I've missed a couple days, or I've had a couple days where maybe I didn't find something I was grateful for. I'm not sure, but that has been continuing. So let me talk a little bit about new decks. So I did get 2 new decks this month. One I bought that I had been kind of on a wish list for a really long time, from the time I first saw it. And I don't know why, I just didn't buy it. But in February, I heard that that it's going to be a new edition is going to be released, and wow, I don't know why this is so wobbly. Sorry about that. I hope this isn't too annoying. Anyway, that it's going to be re-released in a different edition with a smaller book and maybe even smaller cards. I'm not sure. But I thought, you know what? I really want to get the larger guidebook. This is a deck that uses the elements for the suits. and has reversed the order of the majors. And I don't know, this deck really speaks to me. I am really hitting it off with this deck, and I'm really enjoying it. And I think, did I go beyond? Here's the Pilgrim. So the Fool is called the Pilgrim. And so the Pilgrim is on a journey through the majors. And you can see in different portrayals of the majors, the hat and they have a like a pentacle necklace appears on multiple different cards in the majors. Anyway, it's really speaking to me. I'm really enjoying it. I love the guidebook. And I will continue to work with that in March. And I think this might be a deck that I dive into a little bit more deeply. You know, as I said, move from a little bit less breadth to more depth. So the second new deck that came my way was from a Kickstarter that I backed quite a while ago and had really forgotten all about. And it's the this Ofrenda Oracle by Carrie Paris and Nancy Hendrickson. And it's an oracle for divining with the beloved dead. And it is an oracle and a charm kit. So it has this little box that has charms in it. And then it came with a really nice guidebook. It looks thin, but it's got a small font, and it's packed with a lot of information. I have not used this deck yet, but I have been, you know, kind of studying it, and I have to really kind of come up with my meanings for the charms, because I forget how many charms came with the kit, but then there were like 10 or 12 extra ones for the Kickstarter folks. And the main charms that come with the deck all have meanings in the guidebook, but the 10 I want to come up with my own. So it has this little spread cloth, which I don't think I will use because it's really kind of thin. And I find that those kinds of thinner spread cloths are a little bit challenging to work with. So another very interesting thing about this deck is it comes with 2 decks. I'm going to try to get these out without making a big old mess. They're both the same. They're the same decks, but they're different sizes. So this deck is, let's see, here's the little one. It's kind of teeny. Let's see, I don't know if I don't have like a standard tarot card out here. And then this is the other one. So why don't I do this? So yeah, it came with 2 decks. There's, I think, 54 cards. So the first 36 cards are basically a Lenormand deck, but they're sort of themed with, let me get this. They're themed in sort of a Mexican Santa Muerta art style. I just want to show you the cards. Go. So this is just a extra card offering. So you can see the rider and the clover and the ship and the casa, the house. You know, these are your typical Lenormand cards. But in a, like I said, in a kind of a more Mexican folk art style, which I appreciate. So you can take these 36 cards out and use it just as a Lenormand deck. You can use it as a Lenormand deck and cast charms with it as well. And then there are these extra cards. So we have Storyteller, the Guitar, Marigold, the Skull, the Cemetery. So you can see how these, this is the Skeletons, the Salt, the Butterfly, how these have kind of a Santa Muerta, the liquor aspect to them. Calendar, Jaguar, Corn, La Katrina, Torn Paper, the Album, the Candle, the Feather, the Water, the Bread, and Freedom. So there's multiple ways you can use this deck. You could use just this part of the deck, or you could use just the Lenormand, or you could use this with the charms, or this with the charms, or the charms alone, or you could shuffle these, all these 50 some odd cards together and use them as one deck, or you could use them as one deck and the charms. So there's so many different ways that this deck can be used, and I'm really kind of excited about it. I am going to bring it with me on vacation because I figure, look, how much room is that going to take up? And the little book. So I figure I might as well bring that. I'm kind of looking forward to that. So those were my two decks. Oh, and then the other thing is I had already had this book by Nancy Henriksen, The Ancestral Tarot. And, you know, I was partway through this. Well, that's how far I was. And then I kind of did my Sanguine Aries, you know, thing and ended up, you know, getting some other books in, and this went back into a to be read pile, but I'm going to bring this on vacation too. And I decided that I'm going to bring two decks with me. So I have I'll work with the ofrenda, but also I want to bring a couple of tarot decks. One Tarot de Marseille for my French ancestral line, and the other one I'm thinking maybe Wildwood. I'm not sure, but some or Druidcraft, some sort of Celtic for my Scottish ancestral line. And I will use those decks and work with this book. So that I am looking forward to, and I'm kind of jumping ahead to March, but bear with me. Okay, books. So I did read 9 mystery books in February. 8 mystery books in February. So I'm quite proud of myself that I'm keeping up my reading. I mean, you know, they're mystery books. It's not like it's any great, you know, intellectual, deep reading, but you know what, it's reading, and I'm enjoying it, and, you know, yay. I am sorry. I don't know what, my tripod is very unhappy today and very wobbly. So sorry about that. This book, The Ninth House by Lee Bardugo. My daughter reached out to my husband and me towards the end of January, and she said, let's do a book club. So Naomi and Dan, Naomi, my daughter, and her husband, Dan, and my husband, Bob, and I are going to do this 4-person book club. And Naomi bought this book for us to read as the first book in our book club, The Ninth House. And it took me a little while to get into it. But once I did, it was, whoa. So it is a mystery. There is a murder. It takes place in Yale, and Yale has these 8 houses, and there's some famous and powerful people that are in these different houses in Yale that, I think a lot of them kind of run the show. They kind of run the oligarchy, capitalistic, patriarchal culture that we live in. But Lee Berdugo has taken it a step farther and has made these houses beyond what they actually are, and has attributed them with some dark magic. So there's sort of a adult Harry Potter-esqueness to this book, but it's really good, and there's some kind of creepy stuff, and there's a lot of magic. There's ghosts, and there's spells, and there's portals, and there's murders, and it's really fascinating, and I really enjoyed it, and I recommend it wholeheartedly to folks who are into that type of book. And I am looking forward to discussing it in our book club. The second book, or part 2, came out in February, so I might be bringing that on vacation with me, although I don't know if I want to bring a hardcover because they weigh too much. Next book. This is nonfiction. Tarot for Change. This is really an interesting book, and my daughter, speaking of my daughter, Naomi, she gave me this as a solstice gift. And this is by Jessica Dore, Using the Cards for Self-Care, Acceptance, and Growth. She is a social worker. She is an MSW. I'm a social worker as well. And so this is looking at the cards from that vantage point, that perspective, counseling and so forth. And last month I finally found a counselor, as I mentioned in a couple of my videos over the summer and in January. I've been struggling a bit, and it's hard these days to find a counselor or a therapist. There's like not enough to go around because so many people are in crisis. Gee, I wonder why. Anyway, so I did find a counselor, and so I'm reading this book kind of to go along with the therapy that that I'll be doing. So I'm kind of excited. I'm finding this to be really interesting and a really good book. So Tarot for Change. And I took a course. I'm taking a course. It's an online course. It's free. It's called Feminism and Social Justice. It's out of University of California, Santa Cruz. You can go online and sign up for it. Like I said, it's free. It's 5 sessions. And it's taught by Bettina Aptheker, who is a distinguished professor of feminism and blah, 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 blah. I'm not sure what else at UCSC. Wow, she is fascinating. So the first class, basically, she spends time defining feminism and talking about feminism and social justice. She is very clear in her definition of feminism to be intersectional. So although she is a white, older woman and feminist, she is very clear about being intersectional and inclusive, and the importance of including women of all different social levels, classes, whatever, all different races, all different gender identifications, including trans women, and has a very, very broad and intersectional definition of feminism, which makes me very happy. I have been a feminist as long as I can remember. I'm going to just say since I was 18, but probably before. But anyway, I did start out being exposed to books and theories from the second wave of feminism in the late 60s and early 70s, which was mainly focused on white, middle-class, educated women. And then in the 80s, I joined an organization called WILF, Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. And this was in the early 80s and throughout the 80s. And WILF taught about the interconnection of, I'm just going to call them the isms, how feminism and racism and homophobia and classism and all these different patriarchy and all these different things were connected. And they never used the term intersectional, but that's basically what WILF was proponing and was teaching. And here locally on Cape Cod, our local branch of the Cape Cod Women's International League for Peace and Freedom in the 80s taught a course called Roots of Violence, Seeds of Change, and talked about how the roots of violence, which is, patriarchal violence, male violence, white violence, violence against gay people and poor people and trans people and women, how they're all interconnected, and how we need to come together intersectionally to sow the seeds of change to overcome the roots of violence. So that's sort of my background. Started out in the 70s and then sort of got enlightened in the 80s with this kind of broader intersectional definition of feminism. And I've been going down that path ever since. So that was 40 years ago. Anyway, I would really encourage anyone who's watching this video to look into that feminism and social justice class. So as I said, the first class, Bettina talks about this definition of feminism. And then the second class, she covers the Empire Zinc strike of the 1950s. This was a strike that took place in New Mexico, and it was mainly Mexican-American workers who were striking against the Empire Zinc Company for unsafe practices, less pay than white counterparts. They lived in a company town, and so the unfairness of that and the fact that the houses that the company provided had no warm, hot water, only cold water, and no indoor plumbing. It was outhouses. So that was about the strike and how the men were the miners and they were striking, and then the women took over the strike, and so that's how we got the feminist twist. The third class was about the Angela Davis trial in the early 70s. And at that time, I was in my late teens, and I remember this Free Angela movement that became a global movement. Bettina intertwines multiple different events and cases that relate to Angela Davis's arrest and trial. Including the Soledad brothers, some Black Panther activities, some activists out of San Quentin. And so this took place, as I said, in the early 70s, and we were talking about feminism, racism, the prison industrial complex, the injustice of how way more Black people are sent to jail for way longer sentences, and multiple issues that all intertwine and again are intersectional. The Free Angela movement actually became a global movement with tens of thousands of folks worldwide. Interestingly, Angela Davis was found not guilty on all counts. The counts really were sort of trumped up, but when has that stopped Black people from being found guilty? Anyway, in this case, Angela Davis was found not guilty. And then the next class is going to be the Me Too movement. I haven't watched that one yet. So anyway, that's my February. Lots going on. It just feels like there's so many things to be interested in, and so many books to read, and so many decks to play with, and courses to take. And it just as I approach I am having a big birthday at the end of March. Entering a new decade, and I'm thinking, I want to stay young at heart and young in my mind and curious, and I never want to stop learning. And so, so far, so good. So tell me what you've been up to in February. What decks were you using? What books did you read? And did you take any classes? Anyway, bright blessings to you all. Thanks for stopping by. I so enjoy interacting with you all. And thank you so much for the love and support you all gave me last month. It touched my heart.